This gas can right here represents a pretty significant milestone because today, if everything goes right, we are going to do the first fire up of our infinitely long and way overdue LS Swapped Grand Wagoneer project. If you guys have been long-time viewers of the channel, you've probably seen this thing sitting around in the background of the shop for a very long time. It arrived here, I think, in June of 2023. It is now February 2024, so you can do the math on how long this thing has been here. But today we should be able to fire it up for the very first time. I've been meaning to do an overdue update on the shop progress as well, because exactly 1 year, well, like 1 year and a week ago, we moved from Utah to Colorado. We picked up the shop and we opened up for business. And it's been a very interesting first year. As of January of this year, I had intended on getting that Wagoneer done, like just nonstop focusing on it. But we had some personnel changes in the shop and I just have not had the time to dedicate to that project. I haven't worked on my own stuff, haven't worked on that Wagoneer. You know, I've done a few things here and there, but a week and a half ago, we got someone new in the shop here and we are busy, but we obviously, with the help, I'm able to spend some more time on the Wagoneer. So let me give you a progress update of the little things that I've kind of knocked out here and there as I have had time. I don't remember what we showed you guys last, but this is the engine bay. More or less, it is done. We've got a lot of little wiring to finalize. Like you can see this stuff right here. This is all just how we're going to tie into the factory wiring. Right now, it's got the Terminator X Max set up. Everything on the engine is wired. The computer's mounted below the dash. We've got a few jumper wires just to help run things for today. I think last time I showed you, we got the cooling system finalized. We've got hoses upper and lower. We've got the steam vent return. Some new things I did. I built a 4-inch inlet tube. I sprayed it with that wrinkled black, and it kind of had a few of these extra wrinkles that I didn't like. But anyway, this is just like a 90 and a 45, a filter onto the end. We welded in the bung for the IAT sensor. And then over here, this one is just plugged, but that's going to go to the fresh air inlet for the PCV system. Customer supplied the engine, and we talked about that many, many times. It's just a basic 6-liter 4L80 combo with an Atlas transfer case backing it up. Right now, it's just got open manifold, so if and, well, not if, when it does fire up, it's going to be a little bit noisy. So that's kind of the status update of where we're at. So we'll just start. We'll pour that can of gas into the tank. We'll do a quick leak check with the pumps to make sure everything, you know, flows and doesn't puke out. I've been kind of checking items off the list one by one. In fact, I had my first cardboard list completely crossed off, and this is just the second little batch of stuff. So there's just a few little odds, and then, you know, build an exhaust, that's a big one. But really, the first fire up is kind of the major milestone that's going to give me the motivation I need to finish this project and then move on to bigger and better things. Well, not bigger and better, but other things that have not been sitting here for too long. So Randy, again, I'm sorry that things have been sitting here for so long, but it's going to run today. So this is definitely an interesting setup because this thing has dual tanks in it, which they did not come from with the factory, I believe. So it's got this like homemade filler with just 2 separate nozzles in it. So we'll see how it's going to work when we fill it. Well, it's always a good sign when you have no fuel dumping out on the ground. Last night, before I went home, I kind of pre-initialized the Holley EFI setup. So I've got all the parameters installed for, you know, engine size, camshaft, injectors, and all that. So now I am going to power it up, which is this guy here. Take the fuel pump off. And again, this is all just temporary until I fire it up to make sure everything does what it wants, then I can tie this all in. So what I'm going to do now, I've got a fuel pressure sensor hooked up, which is that guy on the bottom. And we should have like 58 PSI because we have one of those Corvette filter regulator deals in there. So here goes the fuel pump. Nothing yet. All right, had nothing on the gauge, so I loosened up this rear AN fitting. I just want to pulse the pump a few times to see if we actually have fuel coming out. Okay, get fuel, tiny bit. All right, so it runs. We had oil pressure, I saw. The only thing I can't figure out is why we have no fuel pressure. So I'm going to dive underneath the truck and get back to you. All right, so just a little while later, I think I figured out what's going on. This fuel system is a little bit unique. Like I mentioned, there's 2 tanks. And we used the customer elected to use a check valve to basically allow the 2 fuel systems to operate independently. So you have 1 tank with a check valve, you have a 2nd tank with a check valve. I think the check valves are bleeding back because I just energized both pumps at the same time, and then we finally have fuel pressure, where before I think when only 1 pump was running, because I found a plug for the rear tank, I filled that up, I ran that tank, had low pressure on the front tank. So I think each check valve is just kind of bleeding backwards into the tank. So we'll have to figure out a long-term solution for that. But for now, just for our kind of first fire up and running, I think if I just run both pumps at the same time, that built the 58 PSI that we were looking for. So we can fire this thing up and actually run it for a good minute, build up some heat in it, get some, some break-in going on it, and see how everything works. So the O2 isn't reading right. You need to build a full response, but it runs, and it runs good. You got good oil pressure, good fuel pressure, major milestone, yeah. Well, we got ourselves kind of a good news, bad news situation going on here. The good news, as you probably just witnessed, we got the Wagoneer fired up and this thing runs actually pretty dang good, especially considering we have, open exhaust and the wideband is just like an inch from the end. So the wideband isn't reading correctly, but that's the one thing I love about these Holley systems is you just wire them up, you know, put in some basic parameters and fire the thing up. Like, you don't need a laptop. He's running the Terminator X Max on here, which I believe you can tune with a laptop if you want. And there's lots of safety features that you can go into, like, you know, if you get into turbocharging and nitrous and forced induction and all that good stuff. But even for a simple or relatively simple conversion like this, you know, we just have a 6-liter LS, mild cam, you know, TBSS intake, and a few other odds and ends. Like, you just answer the few basic questions when you first wire up the Terminator, and the thing just works. So I love Holley stuff. I've got a whole Dominator setup, which I have yet to install in the race truck. But yeah, anyway, that's the great news. The thing runs, and other than the little snafu with the fuel check valve, which we will figure out, the thing runs great. However, there's that big but. We do have a coolant leak, and it's leaking from a place where you don't really want to see coolant leaking from. On the driver's side cylinder head, the very rear bolt that holds the exhaust manifold to the head, it is dripping coolant out of it. When I shut everything down, I saw a little bit of steam or smoke, I thought, which to me, I was like, well, it's just the new manifolds, you know, they're cooking off the paint or whatever. But I heard this intermittent dripping sound, and come to find out, coolant was coming out of that last bolt, right down there. I'll throw an insert shot in so you can kind of see it. What I suspect happened is whenever the owner had this engine assembled at a machine shop somewhere where he lives, they probably had some broken off exhaust manifold bolts. Maybe they tried to drill them out. Maybe they drilled a little bit too deep. Whatever the case may be, we have a exhaust manifold bolt that's drilled through into a coolant passage. So I just spoke with the owner about it actually, and what we're going to do is we're just going to try to pull the bolt out, put some thread sealant on it, and hopefully that'll get us back in business. Like some engines, even like I think certain Mopars, like the RB small blocks, I think, and probably others, had from the factory the exhaust manifold bolts drilled into a coolant passage, and they just sealed it up with thread sealant. So he's okay trying that, and which I think will work just fine, but if not, really the head probably has to come off and be replaced. Or, you know, we could probably have a machine shop drill it out bigger, put some sort of a custom plug in there, but I mean, these are just stock cylinder heads. I don't think there's anything too special about them. So worst come to worst, you know, we could just kind of replace them. But anyway, overall, that's not that big of a deal. We've got no other leaks. Like, we've got a lot of AN lines. Like, I have the transmission cooler running AN. We have all the fuel system, and there's a million junctions. And that's one of those things on a brand new build. You always got to go around chasing little tiny leaks in AN lines, just, you know, tighten them up a little bit tighter, which we didn't have any of that, really. So I am happy. From here on out, the next thing that I really need to do once I get that exhaust manifold leak squared away, I'm just going to work on some more wiring. Right now we have basically the Holley is standalone, and I have like all this stuff up here, for example. Some of this is lighting, some of this is ignition. Like here's a coolant temp sensor for the Wagoneer gauge. So I just got to now officially integrate the two harnesses together, get the fuel pump wiring tied in to use the Holley relay instead of using, you know, alligator clips to the battery and stuff like that. Get the key so it actually will, you know, energize the starter and, you know, just bring this thing home. Tons of little, you know, little things, like we got to top off the power steering. You probably heard that thing whining, making noise because it was just a little bit low. We'll check the trans fluid level. We still have to build a shifter or connect the stock column shift to the 4L80. You know, do a PCV system and 90 million other tiny little odds and ends. But this is like the most rewarding part of any project for me, is just taking a list and crossing something off of it. So, major milestone accomplished. Well, just a little while later, we got that big old colorful spaghetti pile kind of organized and routed where it's going to go for good. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. This will, of course, run across the top of the firewall, like right through there. But you know, we got this one branch that has the coolant temp sensor and the starter wire. We got another branch over here that has the alternator plug on it. And then we get another branch here that has the windshield wiper motor on it. And then now all I got to do is basically just tidy this up, wrap it in this braided loom that I love so very much. I buy tons of this stuff on Amazon. I'll put the link below. Not the plastic, but like this stuff here. I really like it. Kind of has a neat, I don't know, OEM Plus look. So a little bit of tidying up, and then we should be able to actually turn the key and have the starter engage like it normally would, rather than using the button that we were just using kind of temporary. But yeah, that'll for the most part wrap up the engine bay. And then the last wiring is just underneath the dashboard, tidying up a few odds and ends, and then wiring will be done, which is like really awesome. So the last stuff you just saw actually happened on Wednesday afternoon. It's now Friday afternoon. And I'm just now feeling like I can finally get back into the groove of balancing video content with shop projects, with running the shop itself. Like I did mention earlier, we hired another technician here, which makes it a little bit easier for me. So, I mean, the whole month of January, basically, I was acting as a technician, and just that's pretty much nonstop, and that's why you guys didn't see a whole lot of content. As far as the Wagoneer goes, we pretty much have all of the engine bay wiring squared away. There's a little bit left to do on the inside, but under the hood, this is pretty much 100% done. So that's a big milestone. Obviously, we fired it up, which is great. I haven't topped off the coolant yet or run it since I resealed that exhaust manifold bolt, but I think we're gonna be good to go there. So very, very happy that the Wagoneer has fired up, and we're crossing things off the list left and right. There's like 2 or 3 big things left. One, build an exhaust, which I'm looking forward to because I love fabrication and TIG welding. A few wiring things on the inside that'll be easy. I won't bore you guys with that because watching wiring is like watching paint dry, in my opinion. And then there's like one other little thing. But anyway, so I said I wasn't gonna work on my own stuff, but I just couldn't help it. I've been daily driving the S10, and there's these like insane rattles in the door that just drive me nuts. So I just went to the junkyard and grabbed a couple of odds and ends. Grabbed some new mirrors because these are, well, you can't see them, but they're aftermarket ones. And the one on here is like halfway broken off. So we got some heated mirrors, which these are from like a 4-door Blazer. The heat function won't work, but I kind of like the style of them, and they are sturdy. We grabbed some inner door handles because the one on that side was busted, and then I just found some random speakers in an S10 Blazer. So I was gonna throw those in as well, because these are like kickers, but as you can see, they're too small for the hole. So anyway, oh, and the rattle, these guys right here, these rods, the clip was broken, and this I just found one here, but at the junkyard I grabbed a whole bunch of them because they have this like braided thing that goes all the way over these rods and stops them from rattling and making that noise that I find so absolutely annoying. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I promise we'll get back to sort of a regular content schedule here. We're working on the Wagoneer, making progress. This is still my major like push, is I want to get this thing done because it's dragged on too long. After that, we have Dom's Silverado, which you guys saw last year. We did a C-notch and some suspension on. We're turbocharging that coming up here in a little bit. A few other odds and ends, cool projects. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to go throw this thing back together and get back home because it's been a long week. right, final update of the video on the S10. Best 75 bucks I have ever spent at the junkyard to take care of those annoying noises and rattles. They're not completely gone because this is still a 20-some-year-old truck. The door latches are like a little bit loose, maybe a thicker or a new gasket, you know, between the door and the cab might help, but those annoying rattles that happen inside the door, pretty much completely gone. The speakers sound better, and the mirrors, I can actually see out of them.